be a little follow-up video to the high idle mod that I did. What I wanted to be able to do was use the manual engine idle control as well as the battery charge protection. So to see how I did the manual engine idle control, watch the first video that I put together, because wiring up for the battery control goes off of this video. You can see I put this little rocker switch here. I labeled it and stuff. I have it on the manual engine idle control. So flip it. You can see it's up to about 900. And I have my little potentiometer. Goes up and down. I'm not going to turn it up all the way, but I'll turn it back down to the 900. And on this, that's going to take it off. I have it set so the switch goes into the battery control. Now I don't have any load on the truck, but you can watch as I flip it, the RPMs, they drop down and then they slowly climb back up to 600. And the reason why it climbs back up to 600 is as it's monitoring your battery voltage, it will hold between 600 and 1200 RPM. So if I was all of a sudden to plug an inverter into my truck, or heavy duty inverter into my truck right now, the engine RPM would go up. I don't have anything, including the winch on my truck, that draws enough to pull it down, but it is working correctly, because as you can see, I also wired it in so that when it's in that mode, the brake light comes on, so you don't actually need to depress the parking brake. That's off. Back in the manual. The manual is a minimum of 900 RPM. So, shut it back off. That's that. I have it in engineering mode. Something I learned about. That's how I can get this digital readout of the RPM instead of using the gauge. Okay, I'm going to do my best to explain the wiring like I did in the first video. Still used the SVE bulletin. I have my bodybuilder's layout book electrical guide, and I got my original diagram. All three of these things, you can figure out how to get them, what they're used for, whatever, in the first video. Like I said, you have to watch that one in order for any of this to really make sense. But this is the new diagram that I drew. Not an electrical engineer, but basically the brown wire coming from the upfitter switch, or this can be any wire that you're using for a switch, goes into a three-way mini rocker switch, and the center wire coming in here is going to be power, and then you can flip the switch one way or the other, and in the case of the one that I mounted in my dashboard, either up or down to pick which mode you want to go into. And then I had it going one way over to the yellow-green wire, which is for the manual engine idle control that I originally showed you how to do. And then the other way goes over to what should be a violet-brown wire. Now, the reason why on my diagram here I have gray is, I'm going to go over to the service bulletin real quick, is the wire that it says you should be hooking up to out of the wire cluster that's underneath the dashboard is a violet brown. I quadruple checked all my wires and I found two that were violet, which was violet gray. At least it was gray to me. And then there was a violet orange, but the violet orange is for something else. So I hooked up to this violet gray, and it seemed like it worked. I don't know if you're going to have that issue. I did. it works, sharing it with you. But anyway, then from where the connection of the violet gray is going off the piece of paper here, that's going directly into the wire cluster. Then coming off that is a little pigtail, and this is another 12-volt relay, similar to what I showed you how to do up here in the original diagram, just for the manual engine idle control. And it's the same way. You're going to have it coming in to the connection 86, and then 30 is going to be run over where these wires cross and there's not a dot. That's not a connection, I just had to draw past them. That's going to connect over to the white and violet wire. Same thing as number 30 off the original video. Your white violet wire is what controls the parking brake light in your dashboard. That also comes off of the wire cluster that's underneath the truck. And then connections number 87 and 85, you have those come off, they connect together, and then you run that wire down to the ground. And this is the ground that I attached to that parking brake bolt in the original video. You don't have to put it there, I just found it convenient to have one good ground coming off that bolt, and then I got a bunch of pigtails going off of it attaching to other things because I have some other electronics in there. But otherwise it's very simple. All these wires running everywhere seems real complicated, but once you get a grasp of what you're doing, it's pretty simple. You basically just got to trace the wires, make sure you hook them up right, and then test everything. And if you have any experience with electronics, you should know how these relays work, and that makes it even more simple. Some of the stuff, this came off the service bulletin. When you're in the battery charge protection mode, your engine idle is going to be between 600 and 1200 RPM. Now how it picks what RPM to be at is your battery charge, what the air temperature is outside, your oil temperature. Those three things the computer uses to calculate. Now you might wonder, oh, why doesn't it just use the charge? Well, if your air temperature is like here I get in South Texas, it's been like 120 degrees the last week with the heat index, your truck probably isn't going to idle itself all the way up to 1200 RPMs and run like that for a long time so it doesn't overheat. You know, obviously anything that would cause your truck to go into low power when you're regularly driving, you know, an oil temperature, pressure, all that stuff, it's going to tell your engine to shut down with this too. Yeah, I haven't really gotten to test this under load yet because my future plan is to put a 2500 watt inverter in the truck. So once I get that hooked up is when I'll really be able to put the charge protection to a good test. Well, that's it. The new wire diagram that I made, I'll take a picture of it and put it at the end of the video so that way you could pause it and take a look at it. It's pretty simple. Everything, you know, it's just a matter of getting this switch. That's the most important thing. You won't be able to do it. Or your other option is to, like me, I wanted to use one of my factory upfitter switches to do both. You can just wire a different upfitter switch in place of this three-way switch, and then from here, you know, do the same thing. But that's up to you. I would assume that if you're trying to do this, you have a little bit of understanding of what's going on, and if not, just copy exactly how I did it. Hopefully it was clear enough. If for whatever reason I run into any problems with this in the future, I'll be sure to post a video and tell you what to do to rectify it. Good luck. The reason why I used a 3-way switch instead of the 2 upfitter switches is it eliminates the possibility of both modes being enabled at the same time.